Hello, everybody. Oh, hey, this is the mic I'm supposed to be using today. Hello. Welcome to Good Tips for Hard Times, where we find smart people who have great advice to help you get through your days. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anita Sarkeesian. I'm a media critic, public speaker, and the executive director of the Games and Online Harassment Hotline, a new emotional support resource for people who make and play games. The hotline is open, so tell everyone. Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. Pacific, you can text support to 23368 and reach a trained agent to talk to you about whatever it is that you need. It's only in the US, I'm sorry, but that's still a lot of people. So here we are. I want to also welcome any viewers who are watching us from the PAX Diversity Lounge, because as part of PAX Online this year, we're happy to be part of their PAX Together feature. For the rest of the week, come hang out with us and ask questions in the PAX Discord server Diversity Lounge channel. And if you're not in the Discord already, you can join us at discord.com/invite/PAX Online. We'll drop a link in the chat for you. All right, I am so excited for this conversation today. We are going to be diving into disability in gaming, and we have back with us our lovely Kishonna Gray, who is moderating. Kishonna is an assistant professor in the Department of Communication and Gender and Women's Studies at the University of Illinois, Chicago. She's also a faculty associate at the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University. Dr. Gray is an interdisciplinary, intersectional, digital media scholar and digital historian whose area of research includes identity, performance, and online environments, embodied deviance, cultural production. I don't know what half these words mean. They sound really fucking smart, though. And video games. I know that one. I know video games. And black cyberfeminism. I know that one, too. Okay, we're getting somewhere. And today she's going to be talking to Jose Hernandez, who is the New York City Advocacy Coordinator for United Spinal Association and the president of the New York City chapter. But as a player with the Quad Gods, he's known as Odin. Welcome. I'm so excited for you all to have this conversation.
Yay! So glad to be here, Anita. Thank you. I know you're coming to us from hazy LA, where air quality is still not so great. So we're thinking about you and all of our friends and comrades who are experiencing this. Some of that smokiness has traveled this way. So I know our air quality here in Chicago, and also Jose said that the quality there in New York is also impacted. So we're all in this together. And hopefully, this is just like a few moments where folks can get like a break and have like a respite away from those kinds of realities, where we talk about these things that are important, like in gaming. Jose, ¿cómo estás?
Hey girl, how you doing? I'm doing good.
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm such a huge fan of yours, and I was so glad to be able to learn about your work and to get connected with you. And I know, folks who are listening and paying attention, you're in for a treat. And as always, if you want to communicate and you want to like ask questions at any time, drop those questions into the chat. And we have Anita that's kind of going through those. And so if you have questions, we'll be sure to get to your questions. Okay. So Jose, let's just start with the all important question: are you a gamer?
I am a gamer.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. Tell us, like, okay, top three, your favorite video games of all time. You got to give us the top three.
Metal Gear Solid, Guild Wars, and Assassin's Creed.
Okay, that's what's up. So what are you playing right now? What are you into now?
I'm looking at some of the games right now installed on my computer: Rocket League, Death Stranding, Fortnite, GTA 5, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
That's what's up. Are you looking forward to like the whole Cold War kind of thing? You've been playing Warzone. Are you into those kinds of things?
I just downloaded Warzone, but I am looking forward to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I have already purchased.
That's what's up. I can't wait to see you stream that. Hopefully you do stream it. How'd you get into gaming? Because I know everybody, I love an origin story. And everybody, we have like all kinds of like different origin stories. So how did you get into gaming?
So my story is pretty simple. I was born in the 80s, and that was when gaming became very popular with the release of the original Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. But even earlier than that, before I got a console, my father brought home a screen, and all it had was asteroids and a cartridge in the side. So that's how I initially started playing video games.
That's what's up. So you started off like with console gaming, right? And I think that's something we don't often like talk about, because there are like different paths into gaming. There's like that PC path and there's like the console gaming path. And we don't really like talk about that, like, class is like a huge influencer and like race is like a huge influencer too, and like how we got into those. We couldn't afford no computer. We couldn't afford no graphics card. We couldn't afford none of those things. So my mama said, listen, I got this money. We're going to buy this Sega, and that's just what you're going to have. So, like, tell us about, because I know, like, for you, and like your experiences. Now, don't jump into like what you do right now, but just let's talk about like a little bit about like the technologies that we need like to play games, right? Because the technologies are huge for you. We take for granted, just like a lot of like the technologies that help facilitate our gaming. So, talk to us like a little bit about, how you are able to like interact and play like with the games, and why that might look differently like for you than for somebody like me.
So yeah, I want to go back a little bit and say, I got injured in 1995, and um, I was playing the PlayStation 1 at the time, and it wasn't that difficult. You could get into gaming fairly easily and quickly, and I just played with a regular arcade stick. I ended a lot of my video games using something, actually, this same controller, very controller, just plugged into the PlayStation. Then, when the PlayStation 2 came out, it got a little more difficult. They introduced the analog sticks, and I can't manipulate the analog sticks along with all the other buttons with my hands. So put in a little context. My injury: I'm a C5 quadriplegic, and I have limited movement in my hands, and I cannot walk or feel anything from my chest down. So when they went on to the PlayStation 2, uh, console gaming was out of the picture to me. So I moved on to um, computer gaming.
And I think that's so interesting, and I think it's important, especially for people who like design and make games now. Just thinking about the exclusionary practices that they don't even realize like are exclusionary. So basically, you just said that analog controllers are ableist as fuck, right? I mean, they are. Like, think about what a person would have to do with their hands in order to like engage with those kinds of like technologies.
Well, imagine you have 10 buttons, 2 analog sticks. Each analog stick has a button. You have a D-pad, and you have these.
Yeah.
So it kind of got a little difficult.
Right.
But computer gaming kind of opened the world up to me and changed things around.
How so?
So with the same controller that I showed you, I got a USB adapter to PlayStation 1 controller, and I plugged it into the computer. And with a program, I was able to map the buttons to the buttons on the game. So I didn't need to worry about the analog sticks because now I have a trackball mouse that I'm able to use. So the first game I played on the computer was Doom, which my friend let me borrow, and he handed to me on 10 diskettes.
Mm.
Imagine that, 10 diskettes.
No, I can't. No, I can't. Listen, I'm a '90s kid, so like if things were in a cartridge, there was nothing else. Just put it in, or on a disc, and just put it in. I couldn't imagine having to have all those discs.
Well, you have to install them. It says, please insert 1, please insert 2, please insert 3. Please. It's a process. And just to put into context, one diskette only holds 1.44 megabytes.
Like that's wild to like even think about. That's one of the beauties of like the documentary. Did you just watch the documentary? Was it High Scores? That just the recent documentary like on Netflix where they're kind of talking about where they're just kind of like some hidden figures in games, if you will. I shouldn't even call them hidden figures because it was still mostly stories of like white men, but still, they told us like the behind the scenes like kind of stories and conversations around like just what it took for us to like be able to play these games. But anyway, I want you to talk a little bit about, because like folks might hear this and say, oh, he had the USB, he had the trackball, he has all these amazing technologies at his disposal. So it's easy for him to just play. Like, you make it sound so simple.
It's not that simple. First off, a console, a Nintendo or PlayStation or PlayStation 2, the initial investment is what, $300, $400. My current computer to play the video games is over $2,000. Granted, you don't need a $2,000 computer to play the video games, but the initial investment is $500. Now I need to figure out the programs that I need to customize my button layout, or um, figure out what devices I need to play effectively. The trackball mouse, you could buy a regular $10 trackball mouse and play. I mean, a regular mouse and play. My trackball mouse is $90. Um, if I want to go even more custom, I had a custom joystick made, and it cost me $300, which is sitting behind me. So the console games just didn't really take us into consideration and completely excluded us from gaming, and we needed to find our own way to enjoy gaming. And I did, and I still do to this very day.
Absolutely. I think we need to break down. You said a whole lot, and I think it's important for us to unpack what you're saying, especially for the audience, especially for able-bodied privileged folks, right? So here you are, a brown man, a disabled brown man, and here you are, you're trying to play the game that most of us we take for granted. We turn it on, we grab a controller, and then we play, right? You're talking about these extra layers that we don't even have to think about. So you have to accommodate yourself. You have to find the technologies, you have to find the tools, you have to find the money. So if this was like just any other, because I'm assuming you got to have like some resources to do this too. So you said just that initial investment in order for you to play the basic, like, so what would an amount be for you to be able to like reach that level that other folks are playing that don't have to have all these accommodations? What is your entry point? How much money have you had to invest just to play?
At least $600.
On top on top of
That's
of the basic stuff.
that's not including a computer. So what people take for granted is that you can go out and buy the new Xbox for $299, but I need an additional $600 to make a custom controller in order to even use that $200 system, $300 system. So the big hype is these new consoles coming out, but we're already been excluded to a certain degree. I'm not going to say that we're completely out of the picture. The industry has changed a little.
Okay, so it's so how has it changed? So there are, sure, it's made some progressive strides to address its ableist structures. So tell us a little bit about those.
So Microsoft created the Xbox accessibility controller, which can be customized with any button and any layout to play with the Xbox um, gaming consoles. So it's basically a panel with no buttons, and you plug things in and do what you like. Put the buttons in front of you, put your buttons on your headrest, plug in a sip and puff controller, but that gets you going. So it's basically, well, if I could grab it, I would show it to everyone. But it's the Xbox accessibility controller. That'll get you started, and that's $99. If you wanted to get an additional head start, Logitech creates an adaptive gaming kit that has buttons that you can plug into the adaptive controller and start your program, start your controller making with that. But for some individuals like Nairi, one of the players that plays with us, she doesn't have the ability to move her hands. She only has the ability to move her head. So her controller is called a quad stick, and that initial investment is $700, $800, and that doesn't include the console or the computer.
So basically, you're saying that if folks don't have the money, that they're still just excluded.
Yeah.
And we have a great question from chat. Anna G42, thank you for your question. Anna G is asking, how reusable are these tools? So are you able to port them from console to console or computer to computer?
Well, you can go from computer to computer. That's pretty simple. It's all USB and then back-end programming on your end. But when it comes to the console games, the only thing that you have is the Xbox adaptive controller. And if you wanted to play on a PlayStation, you can, but you need to use like another external device to translate what the inputs from the Xbox to the PlayStation um, 5, and now that's coming up, or the 4 that
Hmm.
people are still playing. And as far as the quad stick, that is interchangeable as long as you know how to program it.
Okay, that's good to hear. But from the sounds of it, it's like you would have to basically do this process for like every platform that you're on, like different consoles, going from PC to the console. So I,
It's
I
even it's even deeper than that. It's you have to do the process for every game you play.
Jose, what do you mean?
So so let's say I play an Assassin's Creed and my controller was set up for Grand Theft Auto. Now I need to program or create a different profile for Assassin's Creed. And then within Assassin's Creed itself, change my button layout so that I'm comfortable. So my first hour playing a video game is testing out the buttons to make sure that I can reach everything that I need effectively. So an example in Assassin's Creed would be you needed to hold the high profile button in order to run, climb up buildings, and general fights. I use the Logitech G key and a script so that I'm able to push the button once and I'm able to run across the screen and use the rest of my buttons
Mm-hmm.
freely. If not, I'm walking everywhere and I can't do anything. I'm not climbing up a building.
So so I feel like we're moving forward and then we go back, right? So you just
Yeah.
said, okay, there are all these things that we can do, and then there are some other layers. Like I'm just thinking about just how exclusionary this is. Like how did you learn how to do all this stuff? Like are you doing it on your own? Do you have to do it with other people? So let's say if there's somebody that is like, trying to just figure out like the basics, where would they even go to figure out where to start?
Well, thankfully, I've always been really tech savvy and I figured out a lot of this on my own and help with friends and listening to what they say and have done. Um, and again, thankfully, now we have this great, big, vast internet and large communities of individuals with disabilities who want to game. So there's even pictures. You want to adapt the controllers, you see custom setups where people have created these amazing controllers. I could only imagine the cost that they have put into their actual gaming rigs and their controller setups. So, and you have organizations like um, Warfighter Engaged, and what is the other one? There's a few organizations that they create custom controllers for you so that you can game at a regular level as everyone else, at a competitive level.
So tell me what role then, because I know your organization, Quad Gods, you all do some amazing work, right? So tell me what has been y'all's contribution to like this gaming space. What do you all do? What kind of community is it that y'all have built and are building?
Well, right now we're definitely just building, but is awareness. And that's the most important part is awareness. If you let people know that you're discriminating against us, they might not even know it. You know, then they'll reach out and say, hey, how can we help? Um, the Xbox adaptive controller just didn't come overnight. They decided, we have been excluding the community. We should be more integrated. And they created it. And I'm pretty sure they're taking a loss at it on it. It's $100 controller. And, they basically, here you go, um, be successvel.
So tell us who are the Quad Gods? Like for people who don't know, some people might be brand new to this. Somebody may have just tuned in and they're like, who are Quad Gods? Tell us that. Give us like the descriptive level.
The Quad Gods is an all disabled, all spinal cord injury um, esports team. That's basically with different levels and abilities. We're all quadriplegics in some form or another. Some of us can move our hands. Some of them can't move our hands or fingers. Um, and two of our players can't move anything at all but their head.
And y'all are into like streaming? Do y'all stream games? Do y'all play games? Do y'all just have like virtual meetups? Like
We've
what
been
does your community look like?
we've been doing a lot of virtual meetups. We've been playing Rocket League. A few of us are actually practicing for a Call of Duty Warzone, I think, competition. Um, Fortnite. We're all trying different things and trying to be competitive with the regular able-bodied community. We want to beat you. You see us? We coming for you.
I know that's right. So you do competitive gaming, and so
Yeah.
y'all play these like different kinds of games. How tell me about like some of the structures around y'all that help support you all and support the things that like you are doing. So you've got some sponsorships. People know who you are. Tell us like about some of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I want to thank Logitech because they were a big support of, us in the beginning and still support us to this very day. And definitely want to give a big shout out to the Mark Cuban Foundation for hooking us up as well. Without those two big sponsors, we wouldn't have been able to get off even off the ground because um, PC gaming is expensive and the accessibility features and just getting started is expensive. So um, they definitely got us off the ground. Um,
So
Hopefully, COVID goes away and we'll be able to get a practice space and do big things.
are you able to talk about the relationship that you have with the Nets? Or I didn't know if that was something that you could talk about or
Well, because of the COVID-19, everything has been put on pause. But
but just tell us
if
what it is because it's still amazing.
yep, so we all from New York and the Brooklyn Nets, they heard about our gaming and they agreed to give us some space where we can practice. We're going to set up, 8 computers, 7 computers, and all meet up at one of their training facilities and train, practice on our video games and
Absolutely.
hone out skills.
Absolutely. That's awesome. We've got a fantastic question from Boston Gamers. They're joining from PAX Together. And so their question is what would be your suggestions for game developers to make controls more accessible, like not having buttons you have to hold down, etc.?
Well, I'm playing Death Stranding, and I find it cool that a lot of the features there, whether it be run, hold your breath, or crouch, everything has a toggle feature. You have to activate it, but at least it's there. So I don't have to press it. Just press it once and go. This way I can press that button and do different actions instead of holding it down and having to sacrifice, another button in order to continue. So definitely having toggle buttons or toggle controls, completely customizable controllers in their system don't lock anyone into, a specific layout. That's basically the basics of it at the beginning.
Absolutely. Fantastic. One of the other things that I know we've talked about before is the that disability identity is not really represented in like the competitive gaming industry. Um, you all are hoping to change that, right? What kind of changes will need to happen? What will, these structures need to do to be like more inclusive and to allow these spaces to reflect more diversity like in the competitive gaming industry?
I would love to show up at a competition and it not be accessible.
Tell us
Like,
about that,
well,
Jose.
it's never happened, but I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure some of these locations aren't really accessible. They load up the computers and they take for granted that a lot of the gamers can walk up a flight of steps. So, or narrow doorways or an accessible bathroom, things like that aren't taken into consideration because everyone else can use everything fairly easily. But that would be something that has to be taken into consideration when you hold tournaments. They have to be held in accessible locations, and we play completely different from the competitive gamers. So you're gonna have to look at the rule books and see or change it and make our equipment the standard.
Well, so let's back up a little bit because you said a whole lot of things, and I want to make sure that people like understand just how ableist competitive gaming is, right? So in most tournaments, like, so for instance, I'll tell an experience about me showing up to like a tournament one time. It was at like a convention center or like a hotel that had like a convention space. When I got there, I had to use the technology that they provided for me, right? So I couldn't even imagine, they handed me a controller, one that I had to just like hold in my hand, right? And like just play. So are you saying that those kinds of things are like mandated?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure what their rule book is, but I don't think they're gonna allow someone doing head tracking.
Mm,
If you have a head tracking software, to move your cursor or something like that, is that allowed?
right.
And you even brought something more out. Um, Even the equipment itself. They usually buy 30 of the same desk, 30 of the same computer, 30 of the same keyboard, 30 of the same mouse, headset, everything.
Yep.
But what you didn't take into consideration is height adjustable tables,
Yeah.
because everyone's wheelchair is different.
That's fair.
Um, and leave provisions to be able to connect to our own equipment. We was also fortunate to um, be given space by OS. Um, they're a gaming lounge here in New York City, and their equipment, beautiful as it is not really accessible to us. But the owner definitely says, something, I'll make it right and I'll purchase equipment so that when you come to train at our facility, and anyone that wants to, try out video gaming can come down, um, and we'll have the equipment here.
I think that's a fantastic thing that you just said, and I think it kind of goes into like a question that I think it's important to ask that a lot of people might be wondering, right? So we've heard about all of the restrictions, and we've heard about all of the exclusionary practices, but what can some people do, like allies? What can allies do to support disabled gaming, whether that's they're playing in the privacy of your own home, from competitive gaming, from public spaces being better. What are some things that like folks who have the ability to do something, what kinds of things can they do?
If you have a facility like, a gaming lounge and stuff like that, reach out to the disabled community and say, hey, how can I effectively have this equipment so that if someone with a disability comes in, um, they can use it, or have a contact that, can come down and show people how to game with a disability, because there's no one size fits all solution for everyone. Everyone games differently. Not unlike the consoles that everyone plays with the same joystick. So, just having a good contact with someone with a disability, and shit, you want to go even uh, better than that? Sponsor someone, get the quad gods can use some more sponsorship and getting equipment, or sponsors quad stick for someone that can't afford it. There's organizations that provide funding for that as well. So
That's awesome. That's fantastic. One of the Please send questions. I want to make sure that, folks, if you have questions that you want to ask, that you send those to us. One of the other things that I would like, because you haven't talked about quad gods a whole lot, and I wish you to give quad gods like a little bit more space. What are some of the things that you are working on, like in the future projects? Let's say if the COVID didn't exist, what are the things that you all are doing? Or, if you've had to like adjust because of COVID, what are some of those like initiatives and some of those things that you all like are doing in these moments?
well, we definitely, everything was put on pause because of COVID, but um, we want to do big things. We want to compete at a competitive level. And unfortunately, our founder, the person that created the quad gods, he passed away early on in the development, and were thinking about creating a foundation in his name to help individuals with disabilities um, be able to afford the equipment. So that's one thing that we really want to defend. So.
That's what's up. That's awesome. And you've worked a lot to like, mitigate this inaccessibility. You've worked hard to like, like support folks. Like where would it be? So if there's some like takeaways, folks who are maybe in similar situations, they're supporting folks who are in similar situations, where could they go to? Or is there like websites that I could just go and say, hey, how can I help, my partner, who's recently like disabled? How could I help them like still participate in gaming? How can I'm disabled, how can I participate in gaming? I'm new to this world. Like, are there like some spaces that folks can go to? Is there like a 1, 2, 3 kind of like pathway?
Um, I don't. I know just a few websites like Warfighter Engaged. They create a lot of custom controllers and buttons. You have the quad stick that you can look up and look into it. But general Google, I Google disabled gaming and you get a bunch of different links. But the most established ones are um, Warfighter Engage and the quad stick. Also, look at the Xbox adaptive controller. You can actually punch that in and you'll get a bunch of images of people's different setups. And we're all willing to share our information. If you can get the contact of someone who created something, we just put in the time. If you need advice, if you need to just talk to someone that really knows what they're doing, just hit us up.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Anna G has a question here. I'm gonna reframe your question just a little bit, Anna G, if that's okay. Um, are games that are inherently hard, do you think that these games are also inherently ableist? So if there's a game that's hard, do you think that there are some folks who just like can't play? Or how could we make those hard games like more like accessible without so-called making them easier so everybody can play?
I'm. Is there a hard game? You have different levels of difficulty, and you can play at whatever difficulty you want. The only limitation to us is not our minds; it's our ability to, perform different tasks. So, I know someone that beat Dante's Inferno on like the highest setting, and could you imagine? He's disabled.
Yeah,
So it's not about the difficulty of the game; it's the difficulty of actually using our equipment to play the game.
absolutely. And I think that's what a lot of folks like don't like realize, right? They think if they need to make like games like accessible, like for women, then it has to be easy, or for folks who are new to games, they have to be easy, or for folks who are disabled, then they have to make it easy. And that's ableist as fuck and racist as fuck and sexist as fuck, right?
Well,
Just like for
they say, women need a bigger brake pedal.
right,
Yeah.
right. Like the things that I've heard, like for
Uh,
folks to be like, well, if you want to play, then we got to do this for you. Like, oh, it's too many buttons. I remember somebody was asking me, like, did a controller have too many buttons? I'm like, no. Like, people have like a lot of assumptions that they really
yeah.
have to like unpack, and I think that that's something where they don't have to think about the experiences of others, and so they're just the assumptions are guiding, their thinking.
Like if I can manage driving myself with my ability, I think I can manage playing a game on medium, normal, or hard.
Right, right. We can beat your damn games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I played Guild Wars 1 and 2 for 8 years. This is a massive MMO. And for many years, no one knew I was disabled. And then when I disclosed it, they were like, really? And you can play this game? Like, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I think the more generative like conversation like is just thinking about, okay, we have this product that exists. How can we what can we do to make sure that like everybody can like participate in it, right? And I think oh, one of the other things that I love, like for instance, the Can I Play That folks, so they provide like the reviews like from like a disabled like perspective like about games. So I think it's important to like, shout them out. Courtney, what's up? You're amazing. um, and what they do is basically just give folks like the information of like, okay, if you want to play this game, it doesn't have captions, or the captions are small, or they don't have like enough like descriptive information, so you can't participate. But giving people the information so that they can decide like how they're going to play and how they're going to engage. I think that that's something that I think we should start moving towards.
You know something? I wish I had that information when I initially started. Because do I risk spending $60 on a video game that I can't rearrange the controllers in? Like I can't, swap my buttons for their buttons. WASD is WASD, and you can't change it for 1, 2, 3. So that's one of the risks you took back in the day. It's gotten better, and I hope that video game developers continue that accessibility change, and I hope that consoles do that trend as well. It doesn't have to be X. It doesn't have to be anything else. It can be any button.
That's right. Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful segue. That's a beautiful ending. Like, just so folks who are listening, pay attention that allow these spaces like to be accessible for all of us to engage and play. Jose, was there
PlayStation.
anything else? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. PlayStation. Xbox made one. An adaptive controller. There's no reason why you shouldn't be.
Oh, called y'all out. Okay. PlayStation, what's up?
I'm just saying.
Jose, you're amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out for us. I know you've got something else coming up, so hopefully folks got something out of this. Anita, we're going to bring you back on and bring you back in to close us out. Thank you, Jose, so much.
Thank you.
I'm muted. I know how technology works. Hello. That was amazing. Thank you to both of you so much for that conversation. Please go check out Quad Gods. Sponsor them, do whatever you can. I think the work that they're doing sounds amazing, and want to see the space be far more accessible than it actually is. And also, hey, shout out, Kishonna wrote another book called Intersectional Tech, Black Users in Digital Gaming. I think that this is actually turned around, but whatever. Go look it up. It's great. I may have written some words in it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, y'all, thank you so much for everyone for joining in, folks for coming over from PAX, for checking us out, for our mods to keep this space friendly, and all of you for always being here with us and seeing all these amazing speakers that we have coming on to school us and teach us about being better people. You can watch this video or any of our videos from Good Tips at youtube.com/games hotline. And hey, you know what? The Games Hotline is a free resource available for everyone, and we want to keep it that way. If you also would like to keep it that way, please pitch in a couple of dollars and donate to us at gameshotline.org/donate. It would mean a lot. But also, if that's not a thing you can do, please spread the word. Retweet us, post on all your things. I don't know, Snapchats, Instagrams, what are the Discords? I don't know. Tell everyone you know about our emotional support hotline. Please join us next week when we'll be talking to Dr. Christine Moutier about how to talk to your friends about suicide. So, a big, important topic. We'll see you all then. Bye.